I now recognize Mr. Sorensen from Illinois.
I want to thank Chairman Williams and Ranking Member Bowman for convening the hearing, and thanks to our witnesses today. In 2022, I purchased my first electric vehicle. It was an important decision for me as a climate communicator and a meteorologist. I represent parts of northern, western, and central Illinois, Moline, Rockford, Peoria, Bloomington, Normal. The problem that I have as a congressman is I cannot drive my vehicle from my home in Moline to the corners of the district and then make it back home. The infrastructure just isn't there. Not only does the physical infrastructure not exist, the electric grid is, as currently constituted, is not capable of supporting the number of chargers that we need for Americans and the people in my district to drive an electric vehicle tomorrow. And so for Mr. Fuller, what steps can Congress take to accelerate the upgrade that we need in the grid to support electric vehicle use on a worthwhile scale?
Yeah, absolutely great question. And I bought my first one in 2019 and have the same challenge. It's very difficult to get to Seattle and back for me in one charge. So I feel your pain there. But one of the things that can be done is there's programs like Electrify America and things like that are deploying stations across the interstate highway system, allowing for fast charging stations. In this case, a DC charging station network that's allowed to faster charging. There's also then starting to look at some of the long haul trucking, which is going to be a significant impact on the power system itself when you're talking about 5 to 10 megawatt chargers for each truck. And how do you move across the country that way, recharging those stations? So I think the investments that the offices are doing right now in terms of trying to understand where to place those things, actually putting money into pushing them out there as a public charging infrastructure, are all wonderful things. I think starting to look at what it's going to take, what are the storage and local generation needs that are going to have to happen to make sure that these kind of big charging stations are going to be able to exist without having to upgrade the network itself, because you don't want to be tearing up roads and trying to deploy new lines to support them. And so there's kind of a whole series of events that are going on right now that I think are moving in the right direction, but we can keep accelerating those.
Forgive the pun, it seems sometimes that we're spinning our wheels here. On our current trajectory, when do you think I'll be able to advocate for my constituents to buy an EV?
That's a tough question. I really don't have a good answer for you on that one. I know that we've done some studies that are looking about the energy resources that are available. For example, in the Western Interconnect, we can serve up to 28 million vehicles just immediately right now. As long as they're done with smart charging, we can actually get that up to 65 million vehicles. These are all consumer vehicles, not big trucks and things like that. So as the energy is there, it's about getting it to the right places and then being able to build out the infrastructure to support it. It took us 50, 60 years to build a gas infrastructure to be able to actually then drive gas vehicles along. How long will it take us to do the electric vehicle infrastructure? I hope a lot faster.
Thank you for that. Dr. Boardman, I'd like to continue a couple of the questions that Mr. Weber, my colleague across the aisle, had asked. The state of Illinois is a leader in nuclear energy. The problem that we have today is that developing a new nuclear reactor is cost prohibitive for our electric companies. How do we make sure that that small-scale nuclear can be paid for? Is it public-private partnership? Or what do you suggest?
Yes, Congressman, I believe that it is, and it is the key that we have those public-private partnerships, that we begin in the beginning to talk to the supply chain. So those advanced reactor companies begin to look at manufacturing done in by U.S. companies, so that we can establish, just like any other infrastructure, a high volume of manufacturing, and then we can turn towards factory assembled, factory built, field assembled. So we've got to come up with concepts that allow us to bring those costs down in the way we do with every other industry. And I do believe that efforts are underway with those partnerships that are now looking at that.
And I look forward to the partnerships across the aisle for this clean energy, and I yield back.